Okay, this is Mr. Peterson, and we're continuing with the notes for Algebra 2, Section 2.1, Part A, and this is page 3. And on page 3 and also on page 4, we're going to be answering this question. What does the value of A in vertex form tell you about? You can see that written right up there. And there's going to be a three-part answer. The first part is right here. It tells you whether it opens upwards or downwards. And then we're also going to learn whether A gives a clue as to whether it's vertically compressed or stretched. So it'll tell you that. And then on the next page, when I get to that one, which will probably be a separate video, we're going to answer the third question, or the third answer to the question is, can you use A to help you draw the graph, at least the part near the vertex? And the answer is yes, and I'll show you how. Okay, so let's start with whether A indicates it opens upwards or downwards. And you can see that this parabola, let's say you had a fish right here. Let me put a fish there. Okay, there's a little fish. And that green parabola is a net. Well, if he wants to get out, he would go up because that's where the opening is. And so we say about that one that it opens upwards. Another way you can kind of think of this is the direction that that thing is going is upwards if you put those arrowheads on it. So it opens upwards. And you can tell when it opens upwards when you've got an A value that's positive. So if the number in front, in this case it's 1/2, is positive, that parabola will always open upwards. If it's negative, here's an example. In this case, A is the number -1. Anytime you have a negative number, your parabola opens downwards and it points down. Okay, so we have a couple problems where it asks us a little bit about that. What's the value of A? And does this indicate whether it opens upwards or opens downwards? And then a little bit of a review from the other pages. What's the vertex? So let's actually start with what's the vertex, because you've learned that already. This is the opposite of H. And the number at the back is K. So your vertex is at -2, -5, because it goes 2 to the left and 5 down. And the vertex would start at the origin if that wasn't there. Okay, next you're supposed to find the value of A, and I'll highlight it in pink here. It's -1/3. And since that's negative, we know that this thing opens downwards. In other words, if you graph this, it would look like this. Okay, on the next one, our vertex is at 1. Recall that inside the parentheses is always the opposite of H. And then the K value is 6. No change there. The value of A, I'll highlight this in a different color this time, is 4. And that's a positive value. So this opens upwards. So if you were to graph it, you would expect a graph that points like that. Okay, the next thing that A tells us, A tells us quite a bit, but if the absolute value of A is any number between 0 and 1, and we would write that like this, then the graph is vertically compressed. If the absolute value of A is greater than 1, and this is how you would write it, it's vertically stretched. So we have a laundry list of things we're supposed to do on this one. What is the value of A? It starts out. So A here is -2. What is the absolute value of A? Well, the absolute value of A is +2. Since absolute value makes things positive if they don't start that way to begin with. And is this answer, the one we just got, between 0 and 1 or greater than 1? Well, the absolute value of A here is at 2, and that's definitely greater than 1. So does this compress or stretch the graph? It stretches, vertical stretch. And does it open upwards or does it open downwards? Well, it's A is negative, so this opens downwards. So the way you can think of that is the 2 makes it taller, but the negative sign does a vertical reflection. It flips it upside down. Okay, the next one has an A value of 2/3. The absolute value of 2/3 is still 2/3. No change there. And that number is between 0 and 1, so we say that the absolute value is between 0 and 1, and that makes it a vertical compression. It's not as tall as it would have been. And the positive number up front makes it open upwards. Okay, so that does it for page 3, and I'll make another video for page 4.